Cool. I think we'll kick off and we'll just move into a couple of housekeeping things just to ensure you get optimize your experience really. So yeah, just ensure that your sound is switched on by hovering over the screen. We've disabled participant audio and video by default, just to optimize the experience, and just to ensure that you can hear it properly. Just make sure that you've got any other apps turned off in the background, just to make sure that this that's coming through on your audio. And any questions you got, just post them in the Q&A function, and we will get back to those towards the end, if that's okay. So with that in mind, thanks to Anthony and Rowan. We like to include our kind of global team when we do these webinars. So we've got Anthony and Rowan on the webinar today. They'll be taking you through, introducing you and taking you through the product. So yeah, without further ado, I think I'm now handing over to Anthony and Rowan to take you through the consolidation features. And yeah, we'll go from there.
Hi, everyone, and welcome to Month-End Consolidations Made Easy, using Fathom to improve your multi-entity financial consolidations and reporting. First, some brief introductions. I'm very pleased to be joined today by Anthony Gomez. He heads up account management for our EMEA team. And as you'll see in today's webinar, he's well versed in the process and pain points of doing multi-entity consolidations from his time in practice as well. And for those of you who I am not familiar with yet, my name is Rowan Eister, and I head up marketing and partnerships for Fathom's North American team. A bit of our agenda today and what we'll be covering, we'll start with a brief introduction to Fathom, who we are and what we do for those of you less familiar. And then we'll move into consolidations. So what are multi-entity consolidations? Why is this process so important and valuable? And we'll also cover off on some of the common challenges that folks face when looking to perform multi-entity consolidations. From there, we'll take you into the Fathom product portion of today's webinar. So Anthony will be guiding us through getting your companies and your group set up in Fathom, how to do that, how to organize your chart of accounts and run some easy eliminations. No, that is not an oxymoron. And then finally, how to do the reporting aspect of Fathom with your consolidated group. So creating reports, editing reports, and then sharing insights and reporting with your stakeholders. From there, I will pass back and we'll go to next steps, what to do from here, either how to practice all the great things that you learned, how to get started in Fathom, and then we'll move into dedicated Q&A time. I do want to call out that we will be fielding your questions throughout the webinar, so please feel free to send any and all questions that you have through via the Q&A tool. We'll answer those as we go, and then we'll also save that dedicated time toward the end of the session for live Q&A using your questions. So to kick us off, what is Fathom? Fathom is an all-in-one business performance reporting, analysis, and planning platform. We encompass a lot of functionality. So we take insights from your financial data and turn them into actionable insights and data, customizable, super visual reporting for clear communication, and business planning and looking into the future. How do we do that? So it all starts by connecting to your financial data. So we integrate with your source financials. You can pull them over from QuickBooks, from Xero. You can also import financials via Excel file. Once you've added them into Fathom, that's where the magic begins. So we take that data and turn it into insightful dashboards and reports. And we're excited to show you more of that with a consolidated group in mind today. Easy to get started, easy to connect your data, stay connected, take out room for human error, and get more from that data. So now you know a bit about Fathom, we'll move into consolidations. So a multi-entity consolidation, I'm assuming any of you here joining us today probably have a pretty good idea of what that means or what it means for you or your organization, just to ensure we're all on the same page. will define that concept. So a multi-entity company or an organization may have multiple locations, subsidiaries, or operations that each hold its own unique chart of accounts, possibly its own bank accounts or credit cards, tax structures, or unique jurisdictions that they're each working under. This can be a little disparate across an entire group with individual entities. So consolidating financials across multiple entities rolls up all of those individual movements and results into one overall cumulative view of the group of organizations. Common challenges faced when you look at doing this process. It's error prone. I've mentioned multiple sources and disparate entities within a group. So let's say they are all operating under different jurisdictions or tax law. You can imagine the complexity just kind of exponentially increases as you get more nuanced with how each of those entity operates. And it is error prone because you're looking at various sources of truth and looking to bring them all together. So if you're doing that manually, there's room for typos, for misreading a number, for just entering in the wrong result for a particular account within one of those companies. And again, room for error kind of exponentially increases as you look at a complex group with unique entities within it. Multiple tabs and sources to check. Again, multiple sources of truth. Labor intensive. This process is time consuming when done manually or sort of the traditional way. Requires hours of work. And this work is required each time that you're looking to run a report or see group results. Results are static. So again, every time that results change or you want to look at group totals, you would need to actually go back and redo this work for the month or the quarter at hand. And then your final result is typically in spreadsheet view. So for some of us, that works great. That's kind of our core communication tool and how we read, and that's wonderful. For many folks, whether that be investors, stakeholders, employees within your organization, spreadsheets may not be the best communication tool. So we'll show you how Fathom solves for each of these pain points when we move into the product. And just a brief overview of how we do that. So eliminating errors, direct integrations to your source financial data eliminates room for human error, gives you one clear view of group results. So no more checking multiple sources and double checking and triple checking and kind of surfing between various tabs that you may have going. I'm sure a lot of you are familiar with that feeling. Fathom customers also save a lot of time going this route. So we found that customers save an average of about 14 hours each reporting period compared to alternative or traditional consolidation methods. And our consolidation results and reporting is going to be dynamic. So we'll automatically pull through any updates to individual entities within the group and group totals so that your results are always up to date and you're not redoing all of that work each and every time that you want to report or simply view group totals. And then on to reporting. So versus that spreadsheet view, we'll still tick all the boxes in terms of the table layouts and formats that you need to see group totals in that kind of traditional financial statement view. And Anthony will be showing us that today. We also allow you to add visuals, add a ton of clarity to your reporting, customize to the degree that makes sense to you, and then even schedule reports to automatically generate and to share out to key stakeholders. So Fathom also can really become your communication tool. And a bit more on what will we be jumping into today. So we'll move into the Fathom portion of today's webinar, and we'll be covering off on how we solve for some of these common pain points and how we can improve the financial consolidation process and, most importantly, the results. So we'll go through setting up your consolidated group, organizing your chart of accounts and creating one clear chart of account structure across your entire group. We will also show you how to easily eliminate. No, that is not an oxymoron. We'll show you how to do that in Fathom and what that looks like. And then we'll move into reporting. So how do you accumulate these results into one super valuable package at the end of the month or end of the quarter? or end of the year for your audience and stakeholders, communicate results clearly, and how to control user management. So what levels of access folks get. Obviously, you'd want to just give them access to the relevant financial results for their organization or their individual entity. So we'll show you how to pull all the strings there and what's available to you in Fathom. And without further ado, I will be passing over to Anthony here to take us into the Fathom product portion of the webinar. As mentioned, please send through your questions, keep them coming. We're on hand to answer them, and we'll loop back to them at the end for live Q&A.
Cool. Thank you for that, Rowan. Yeah, great. So hi, everyone. For those of you who have not seen Fathom before, this screen that we're looking at here is the home screen in Fathom. So everything I'm looking at now is companies that I have imported to Fathom. So to create a consolidation in Fathom, the first thing you need to do is import the underlying and standalone companies. And to do that, we are going to use this add button up in the top right-hand corner of the screen, and then we just click company. If you're using one of our native integration tools, one of these four you see on the left, then you just click which one you're using. It will take you to a login screen where you'll enter your details, and then you'll have the list of entities that you have access to within that software, and you can bring in the one or many that you need to bring in. If you're using a software that's not one of these, we do have an Excel import format you can bring into. If I just click that one, there is a set template that Fathom gives you, and you can get an example of that template using this blue text at the bottom. And we also have some import guidelines to help you make sure that you're getting everything in the right format. So I already have my two entities that I'm going to consolidate today imported here, Banana Inc. and Toffee Inc. So what I now need to do is create the actual consolidation. So to do that, I'm once again going to use the green button in the top right of the screen. And this time I'm going to hit Consolidated Group. When I hit Consolidated Group, I'm brought to another screen, and this is a pretty easy and quick process. I have a list here on the left of all of the companies that I've already imported to Fathom, and we know that I wanted to consolidate Banana and Toffee, so I'll find Banana first, and then Toffee. And now on the right here, we see the two companies I'm about to consolidate. At the bottom here, I have a potential date range, and this is basically asking me of all of the available data in the two companies I've selected, how much of that data do I want to bring through? I could bring in less if I wanted to. I'm going to bring in a lot. And the other question it's asking me here is, what would be the financial year for this consolidation? So because I have two different financial years within my underlying companies, I can select to have a specific one for the consolidation. From my own time in practice, I know that that process alone in aligning financial years to a consolidated year is a massive time hole. So this already is saving me quite a bit of time. The final thing left to do here is to give this company a name. We're going to call it Banoffee Inc. And then I'm going to hit create. So this is going to spin for just a few seconds here, and then already in a few seconds, I've done what would have taken me quite a few hours doing this in practice. So this is already consolidated. Every financial result I had in those two is now showing as one with the financial year I've selected. Now, there's quite a bit that you can do with this now in Fathom. We can see here on this screen that in my consolidation, I can do some sort of analysis, I can do reporting, or I can do forecasting, and we're about to jump into settings. A lot of this is going to be outside of the scope of today's webinar because there is a lot to Fathom, but there's plenty of resources on that. And if you want some information specifically on our interactive analysis or on our forecasting, just let us know, just drop a question in. But for now, I'm going to kick off with our settings. And I'm going to show some other pretty cool ways that we can save ourselves some time and some headaches and some user errors, as Rowan was saying. So in my settings for my consolidation, I have 6 steps. I'm not going to go through all of them, again, because some of this is outside of the scope of consolidations, and it's the same as you could do in Fathom's single company functionality. But within update data, this is just basically telling me what data I have already connected and what dates I'm consolidating. This actually updates for me automatically, but I can, if I have just made an update to an underlying company, I can push through a manual update there and then. I'm going to quickly just show something in group profile. Most of this is really self-explanatory, and you just read what it's saying on screen and enter your own information. But one thing I will point out is Rowan mentioned multi-currency. And if I did have 2 entities in a different currency, I could choose a presentational currency here, and I could also choose which exchange rates I want to use. Fathom will automatically bring in exchange rates from Open Exchange, which is the third-party exchange rate provider, but you have also the ability to enter your own rates. Where I will focus some time, though, is on chart of accounts. So there's two really cool things and time-saving things that we can do in Fathom as it pertains to consolidations. The first we're going to look at is one that I came up a lot against during my time in practice, was where when consolidating multiple entities, they often didn't have completely perfectly synchronized chart of accounts and harmonized charts of accounts. And my first two accounts here are a bit of an example of this. So the two entities I'm consolidating are cafes, and obviously they're both selling coffee. And under my revenue here, I have one which has its coffee sales listed under coffee and another which has it under coffee sales. So they're obviously the same thing. And in my consolidation, I want those to be showing in one line. So one thing I can do in Fathom is I can select both of those lines and then create a heading. So I'm just going to call these coffee collectively. Apply that heading and save. And now whenever I want to, I can switch to a view within my consolidation that just combines the two or more accounts that I have selected under a heading. And I could do that throughout my chart of accounts to really tidy them up. Again, that's sort of a one-time process, takes a few minutes, and that saves a hell of a lot of time and effort and pain down the line. The other really important thing that I'm sure everyone on this webinar will know about is we often need to do eliminations for intercompany transactions or balances held between the companies in the group that we don't want to show as an absolute balance in the consolidated results. So we can see here on under my revenue, I have some intercompany sales, and I just want to eliminate those. So I'm going to hover over it and just click this button, eliminate. It then is going to show me all of the companies in the group that have that specific account and which ones do I want to eliminate from. In my case, it's just in one, and I'm going to want to eliminate it from there and hit done. And then the other side of those transactions are going into my intercompany purchases. So I'm going to do the same thing here, hit eliminate, and then hit save. I also have some loans. So those were sales and purchases going between one company to the other. On my balance sheet, I have some intercompany loans. So I have one under my assets for the company that's giving the loan, which I'll eliminate. And I have one under my liabilities for the company receiving the loan, which I'll also eliminate. Again, I'm going to click save. And what's going to happen now is every single period, Fathom will eliminate the entirety of the balances within the 4 selected accounts, but you can obviously do that with as many accounts as you want. And again, that's saving me a lot of time. It means each period I don't have to find the specific debit and the specific credit that I need to eliminate from each specific account. Fathom will do that work. If you have, obviously the ideal scenario is that you have all of your intercompany transactions and balances within an intercompany account. So we just eliminate the whole account like I've done. Obviously, in an imperfect world, maybe you have some of your sales or some of your balances within another account are intercompany, but some are not. For example, if I had specialty here, 50% were intercompany and 50% were external. I also have a Fathom workflow that I can do partial eliminations, and that would be essentially using an Excel journal with a specific format. Again, it's going to be outside of the scope of today's webinar, which is high level, but if you do have questions about partial eliminations, just let us know and we can cover those as well. Great. So now I've done all of the things I'm going to do in my specific consolidation settings. We've got KPIs, targets, and alerts that we can play with as well. But like I said, they are the same as the normal Fathom functionality for individual companies, so we won't cover that now. One thing I will say before we move on to reporting is Rowan mentioned user management. So I can now play with who I give access to what I'm about to do. So obviously when dealing with multi-entity organizations, we might have some people who should only be able to see the results of some companies in the consolidation, and some who should see others, some who should see the lot, some who could only see reports, some who could only see forecasting. In user management, we can give exactly the right people, exactly the right permissions that we need. And we'll see shortly how those come into play when creating a report. Great. So now I've done all of this, I'm going to jump into my report settings, my report section for this consolidation. And like with the rest of Fathom, there's a lot that we can do in Fathom's reporting. So we have quite a few icons here on the left, and most of this will be outside the scope of today's webinar. But again, if you have specific questions about reporting, we can cover those. So it's jumped me here to Excel reports. And while today we're going to be mainly focusing on Fathom reports, we do understand that often there are things that we might want to export to Excel. So there's lots of information you can get to Excel here, including this top Excel report here, which is a really auditable one. It shows us all of the eliminations. It shows us all of the intercompany transactions, a company by company breakdown of a consolidated total. And if there's any foreign currencies, any FX going on, it shows us the specific movements relating to those FX. We also have lots of templates that you can use, but what I'm going to jump into is just to create a draft report from scratch and bring in a few really useful elements to our reports that lots of people often use and could take you a long, long time using something like Excel. So in my draft report section, I'm going to create a new draft. Like I said, we've got lots of templates that can kick you off the mark with a really good start point, but I'm going to start mine from scratch. And then I'm just going to give my report a name. So this is going to be Bernoffi report. I can choose a period to report on and an orientation of the pages in the report. I'll hit create there. And this is now going to bring me my blank canvas. So lots and lots we can do within a report. And what I'm going to focus on now is the really useful one specifically for consolidations, but there's loads of visuals and interactives and things we can put into here. So the first one that most people want to see is a consolidated profit and loss and balance sheet. So we can either get that by hitting add tables and financials using this button or this one here. They do the same thing. And obviously, because I'm looking for a table, it's tables. So the very first one we see here is a really useful one to start with. If I just click that top one there, what I've brought in is a consolidated P&L and balance sheet. It's showing me the month of July, and it's obviously consolidating all my balances in my presentational currency. Immediately, I can see that little thing that we were talking about earlier, where I have two accounts essentially giving me the same revenue results, they're split out. So I'm going to want to change that. And it might be that I want to report on a different period or bring in some comparator columns to this table, so I can change that as well. So to make any of those edits, I'm going to hit the little edit pencil here. And it's going to bring up a side menu with lots of options. I can create a custom table for my report. I won't bother. I'm happy with P&L. I might want to change the reporting period. So let's change this to a quarter. Now you can see that's updated to my Q3. Here I can pretty nice and easily change what I'm looking at in the table. So right now I've got it filtered to all companies, so my consolidated results. But if I did want to filter down to just one company, I can do that within the same report, which makes for quite a nice sort of full 360 reporting experience. I'm going to keep mine to the consolidation. And then, like I said, if I wanted to change or add any comparators to here, in my columns section here, I just click add or remove columns. And then I've got lots and lots of options to choose from prior period options, budgets if those exist, variance columns, and lots of other things. I'm going to just keep mine as a simple quarter to date consolidated result. But one thing I do want to do is I want to consolidate these two rows into just one coffee revenue line. So it's defaulted me to the maximum level of detail, but by reducing that by one level, I have now folded and collapsed the heading that I created earlier. So now we really nicely have just one coffee line for those results, and we can compare them as we need. I'm also going to bring in some profit margins here. That's a really useful thing to bring into my reports. So now just instead of a gross profit number spoken in a currency, we can see it as a percentage as well. I'm going to hit save changes there. And now I've got my consolidated P&L and balance sheet below really quickly, easily, no headaches. Another very popular table that we see in our reports is a trended version of the same thing. So when I open up my tables and financials menu, you'll see that it has up the top a monthly and a financials smart text selector. So this is just to choose, do I want to change to a different reporting period? But as you can see, we can also do that within the table. Another thing we might want to do is change the type of table. So a financial trends gives me exactly the same thing we were just looking at there. But instead of showing sort of one period and then comparators, we can see all periods trending through a year contiguously. So we know how those work. It's just the same process I just showed. But another different type of view for a consolidated table we might want is a financials by company table. So I'm going to bring in my top result here. And we can see that what that table does is it shows me the same P&L again, but now I've got the company by company split as well as the consolidated total. But let's say we wanted to see what our eliminations were, because we did some eliminations earlier in settings, or maybe we want to exclude some companies from our consolidation. If we were consolidating 10 companies and only wanted to see 4 of those, the main 4 trading entities, I could show this table in just 4. So as before, to make any edits, I will hit my edit pencil. You'll see a lot of this looks very similar. And here in my columns, this is where I can start to add or remove which companies I want to show in this table. Now, I've only consolidated 2, so I'm just going to keep them both. But if I had consolidated 10, I could bin some of them to show just the ones I want to, and I could add a delta column to show you what makes up the total consolidation that I'm missing. One thing I do want to do again is collapse my coffee sales. So I'm going to click that same level of detail I did before. And again, we've got a nice comparable total now. We've got those on the same line, which is great. And eliminations. So what it's defaulted to here is showing me my totals after elimination. So you'll remember that in my settings, I had an intercompany sales and an intercompany purchases line, which are not here. But if I wanted to show my results before eliminations to see what those numbers would have been, I can click this option here. And we can see intercompany sales. So as we saw before, I only had those within toffee, and I had intercompany purchases within banana. Those were the same amount because they were just straight to each other, and I eliminated the lot. So I started with 0 in one company, 9557 in another. I eliminated all of it and ended up with nothing. I can also put in a balance check here, which shows the amount of the elimination, and we can see that all tallies nicely, and it saves me a lot of time, and it's really auditable and easy to see. I'm just going to keep mine in the simple view though for now, keep it tidy. And one other option I'm going to point out here is our ability to download anything we put into a Fathom table in a report. We can download that to Excel. So this is essentially allowing us to create our own custom Excel downloads within our report. Again, we all love to go online and do as much as we can within Fathom. It's sort of the way of the future, but occasionally we do need to download things to Excel and do our own calculations. So now I have this little button at the bottom of the table, having checked that box, that will let me download anything I'm seeing into Excel, which is really handy. Cool. Last component I will cover here is a bit more of a visual one and a really cool one for seeing how things split within a consolidation down to company level. So this time I'm going to insert a chart component. Right, so that's our middle icon here that says charts. And right at the bottom of this, we can see I've got one that says breakdown by company. So if I bring in my breakdown by company, it's defaulted me to revenue here. And what it's showing me is similar to above, the breakdown by company of revenue. But the thing that I can do with this, if I hit edit, is I can change this to any metric. So that could be any KPIs I've got selected or I want to see in my consolidation, any P&L or balance sheet header, or right down to chart of account level. And this can be really, really helpful for especially things like gross profit, where in an Excel table, we might have to make that calculation very manually. Here, I can just choose the KPI or the margin, bring it in, and it does all the work for me. Great. So I'm pretty happy with that report now. Again, lots I haven't touched on in reporting that are outside of the scope of this webinar, but there is really a lot we can do with this. But I'm happy with this now. Now I'm ready to share this with other users, other stakeholders who want to see these consolidations. So I'm going to go back to my report screen, and we can see that report I created sitting in my drafts. Maybe someone else on the team needs to review this. Maybe I want someone else to have the ability to edit the report, so they can go back in and do that as well if I've shared edit rights with them. I could also download that to PDF, but what I'm going to do is I'm going to publish this report. Anyone who I had given access to the report, I could choose to notify them automatically now via email. I'm not going to do that, but that is an option I have to automate another workflow, but I'm just going to publish this straight for myself. Anyone else who has access now can also see this published. And from here again, I could download the published PDF, but a really cool way of seeing this is to view online by clicking this symbol. And everything I've created now appears on one long page, which is really nice. But I also have a really cool functionality to interact with other users of the report with our comments feature here. So anytime I hover over any component in the report, I've got a little speech bubble, which I can click. And then I could easily have a dialogue with others in the report. So I might say, revenue this period looks strong. I'll post that comment. And any other users, any other people who have access to this consolidation will get a notification in their Fathom homepage, and they can come in here and they can reply to my comment. It's a really, really nice interactive way of dealing with reports. Great. So that's all I'll focus on for today with reports. Like I said, lots of other things we can do in there, but that's probably enough for a high-level overview of our consolidation. So I'll hand back to Rowan now.
All right. Thank you so much, Anthony, for taking us through the steps in Fathom to put together your consolidated group and all of the great reporting features and sharing and communication tools that we have for you. Now we will move into some next steps and your questions.
Cool. So, yeah, there were a couple of questions that came up during the webinar, which I did post a response to. So, hopefully, Heather and Rocco, hopefully I answered those in a way that you need to be answered. Feel free to come back to me if you need any further explanation. There is one more that's come in from Rocco, which I'm just going to read out and kind of work through live. So the question was, is there any plan to include divisional track and category information from single entities into the consolidation so that it can be reported on within the consolidation entity? Honestly, I'm personally not aware of any plan to bring in track and category data into the consolidations right now. That's not to say we won't do it in future. It's just not on the immediate kind of 6-month roadmap, if you like, to my knowledge currently. But if that changes, we'll of course let you know. Another question has come in. Can I consolidate across multiple file types? Absolutely. Say you've got some of your entities on QuickBooks, some on Xero, maybe one in Excel. You absolutely can consolidate those together in the same way that Anthony went through. The functionality will be the exact same once you're within. Any other questions that you may have, feel free to pop in now. How much does a consolidated group cost? So the group, we don't charge for the consolidated groups. So you pay for the kind of underlying entities that you bring in, the databases, if you like. But the actual groups, you can create as many of them as you like within Fathom, and that will be at no additional cost. Some people like to have multiple different consolidated groups to consolidate different parts of the business. Like I say, that will be completely no cost. How many users can I share a consolidate report with? So you can share it with as many users as you want. You can bring in as many users into your Fathom account as you need to. Again, we don't charge for users. The only thing we charge for are the entities. So you can bring in users with different levels of permission as well. So let's say you wanted to bring in your client, that's absolutely fine. You can give them like view only permissions for their data and nothing else, and kind of work for it that way as well. We've got one more. Can the reports be directly exported to slideshows? So in terms of exports, you can either, even though you can't get it as a slideshow, you can download it as a PDF. So what you build as a report can be downloaded as a PDF and then essentially kind of go through it that way, or you can view it within Fathom. So if you were to view it within Fathom, you can invite people in as users so they can view it within and comment on it in the way that Anthony showed. Or you can kind of share your screen and go through it that way, but unfortunately not as a slideshow. One other one. Are you going to hold a webinar about the eliminations report and how to use it effectively? We find this process quite time consuming and would like some training. I'm not aware of a webinar on this, but we can certainly feed it back. If that's something that's kind of got demand, we can certainly feed it back and put something together. Alternatively, feel free to reach out to us personally, Julie. If you need some training on that, we can absolutely provide that. That's not a problem at all. So feel free to go firstly to the email address on screen, support@fathomhq.com, or contact one of us individually to go through. If you want a training session on that or anything else, we can absolutely get that arranged. That's not a problem at all. Just give people a chance to come in with any final questions. If there aren't any more questions, we can wrap up there. So in terms of next steps, if you're not an existing customer, feel free to reach out to us or just simply go to our website and start a free trial and we will reach out to you. If you are an existing customer and you've got any questions, feel free to reach out to whoever your account manager is within Fathom, and we'll be happy to help. Like I said, happy to provide training or whatever else may be needed. That's absolutely fine. Oh, so one other question come in. Can today's presentation be reviewed again? Yes, absolutely. We will be sending out a recording of the call, of the webinar, sorry. So yeah, we'll be sending out a recording, and yeah, you can view it as much as you need to. If there aren't any further questions, I'll give you some time back in your day. Just want to thank Anthony and Rowan for walking us through the process today. It was really helpful. Hope you guys found it helpful. And yeah, I think we've got, oh no, that was it. That was all for the questions. No, thank you, Heather. That's absolutely fine. Yeah, if there's no more questions, we'll wrap up there, give you some time back, and hopefully speak to you all soon.